Welcome back to ABC General Hospital Spoilers channel. Today, we will learn about the shocking possibility that Nathan West might be the mastermind behind the devastating blackmail photos that have put both Laura Collins and Sonny Corinthos in an incredibly dangerous position. This jaw-dropping theory suggests that the beloved detective may have secretly worked as Jen Sidwell's personal photographer on that fateful night when Laura discovered Professor Henry, Hank Dalton's lifeless body stuffed in her car trunk, capturing evidence that could destroy multiple lives in Port Charles. The explosive revelation came to light during the December 4th episode when Sidwell smugly revealed his trump card to his captive audience at Windermere, with a sinister confidence that sent chills down viewers' spines. The international criminal mastermind displayed photographs showing both Laura and Sonny standing dangerously close to the trunk containing Dalton's corpse. These damning images represent the ultimate blackmail leverage, capable of implicating Port Charles's mayor and its most powerful mob boss in a murder investigation that could unravel everything they've worked to protect. The photos are crystal clear, leaving absolutely no room for denial or alternative explanations about what transpired that night. However, the burning question that demands immediate attention centers on exactly how Sidwell managed to obtain such perfectly timed, incriminating photographic evidence. The logistics of capturing these shots required someone to be in precisely the right place at exactly the right moment, with a clear line of sight and the technical capability to document the scene without being detected, while Sidwell himself was occupied at Windermere orchestrating his elaborate schemes. His right-hand man Pascal was running himself ragged, handling cleanup operations and simultaneously serving as Britt Westburn's personal chauffeur throughout the evening. Although Pascal is certainly ruthless enough and skilled enough to have squeezed surveillance photography into his already packed schedule that night, the timeline becomes increasingly difficult to reconcile when examining all his documented movements and responsibilities. This is precisely where Nathan West enters the picture in the most suspicious and troubling manner imaginable. His sudden appearance at Laura's vehicle that night was jarring and completely unexpected, raising red flags that have only intensified upon further examination. Nathan materialized seemingly out of thin air, tapping on Laura's car window with a casual demeanor that felt oddly rehearsed and artificial. The detective claimed he was simply in the area and noticed the mayor looking distressed, but the convenience of his timing strains credibility beyond the breaking point. What are the realistic odds that Nathan would just happen to be wandering through that specific location at that precise moment, especially given that it wasn't anywhere near his typical patrol route or jurisdiction? The encounter became even more peculiar when Sonny Corinthos arrived on the scene to assist Laura with her dire predicament. Nathan's behavior shifted noticeably, and he announced with suspicious swiftness that he had just received an urgent work-related call requiring his immediate departure. He excused himself hastily and seemingly drove away into the night, leaving Sonny and Laura alone to deal with their horrifying discovery. But here's where the theory takes a dark and calculated turn that changes everything we thought we knew about that night. Nathan may never have actually left the vicinity at all. Instead of genuinely responding to a police emergency, he could have simply driven his vehicle around the corner, parked in a concealed location with an unobstructed view of Laura's car, and positioned himself to capture photographic evidence from a strategic distance using professional surveillance equipment. This scenario makes tactical sense from multiple angles and explains numerous inconsistencies that have puzzled careful observers. Nathan would have possessed both the training and the resources to conduct covert photography operations thanks to his law enforcement background. He understands camera angles, lighting conditions, and how to remain undetected while gathering intelligence. More importantly, his sudden departure created the perfect cover story, allowing him to vanish from the immediate scene while actually maintaining close surveillance from an alternative vantage point. Sonny and Laura, believing themselves alone and safe from observation after Nathan's exit, would have let their guard down completely, never suspecting that a camera lens was documenting their every movement and incriminating action. The deeper motivation behind such treacherous behavior connects directly to an increasingly compelling theory that has been gathering substantial evidence throughout recent episodes. Multiple clues scattered across various storylines strongly suggest that Nathan West has secretly been functioning as Jen Sidwell's mysterious business partner all along, operating as a mole deep within the Port Charles Police Department. This partnership would represent one of the most devastating betrayals in General Hospital history, transforming a trusted hero into a calculating villain who has been manipulating everyone around him with Oscar-worthy performances of loyalty and dedication to justice. Nathan's convenient excuse about suffering from complete amnesia, covering the last 7 years of his life, provides the perfect smokescreen for any suspicious knowledge or unexplained connections he might inadvertently reveal. He claims to remember nothing about his recent past, his relationships, or his experiences during that mysterious time period. However, this memory loss story could be an elaborate fabrication designed to explain away inconsistencies while allowing him to maintain his undercover role. If Nathan is indeed working with Sidwell, claiming amnesia serves as an ingenious safety net, permitting him to selectively forget whatever becomes inconvenient while gradually remembering exactly what suits his hidden agenda at any given moment. The amnesia excuse becomes even more sinister when considering the possibility of brainwashing or advanced memory manipulation techniques that could have fundamentally altered Nathan's personality and loyalties. Port Charles has witnessed numerous instances of mind control, psychological conditioning, and identity reprogramming over the years, making this scenario disturbingly plausible within the show's established universe. What if Nathan underwent some form of radical psychological transformation during those 7 missing years? Perhaps his memories weren't simply erased, but rather replaced with carefully constructed false narratives and implanted directives that turned him into an entirely different person beneath the familiar surface. The most chilling aspect of this theory involves the potential connection to Nathan's villainous father, the notorious Caesar Faison. Faison was a master of deception, manipulation, and creating elaborate schemes that could span years before reaching fruition. He specialized in psychological warfare and wasn't above using mind control technology when it suited his purposes. What if Sidwell somehow obtained access to Faison's research, techniques, or even unfinished projects? Could Nathan have been subjected to a twisted process that essentially overrode his original personality with characteristics, behaviors, and priorities modeled after his father's criminal mindset? This would explain the subtle but unmistakable shifts in Nathan's demeanor that have troubled observant viewers who sense something fundamentally off about the detective's recent actions and reactions. There have been several telling moments when Nathan doesn't quite act like his old self, displaying flashes of cold calculation or manipulative cunning that feel completely foreign to the warm, straightforward hero viewers once knew and loved. His facial expressions occasionally reveal something darker lurking beneath the surface, particularly when he thinks nobody is watching him carefully. These micro-expressions and behavioral anomalies suggest an internal conflict or perhaps the presence of a completely different consciousness operating the controls. If Nathan has indeed been transformed into a version of Caesar Faison through psychological conditioning or memory mapping technology, he would represent the ultimate sleeper agent, embedded within law enforcement with the complete trust of everyone around him, while secretly serving Sidwell's criminal enterprise. This infiltration theory gains additional weight when examining Nathan's current position and the access it provides. As a PCPD detective, Nathan has unprecedented insight into ongoing investigations, police strategies, evidence collection, and the movements of key players throughout Port Charles. He can monitor what authorities know about Sidwell's operations, provide advance warning about raids or arrests, manipulate evidence to protect his criminal partners, and even sabotage investigations from the inside without raising suspicion. His badge and reputation serve as the perfect camouflage, allowing him to move freely through both legitimate and criminal circles while maintaining the appearance of heroic dedication to justice and public safety. When examining the physical evidence and logistics of that crucial night, all roads lead back to Nathan as the most probable photographer. He was definitively present at the scene, confirmed by his direct interaction with Laura. He had clear visibility of the vehicle and the surrounding area. He possessed the technical skills and equipment necessary to capture high-quality surveillance photographs. He created his own alibi through the convenient work emergency that explained his departure while actually providing cover for continued observation. No other known individual can check all these boxes as convincingly as Nathan West. While Sidwell could theoretically have deployed additional unknown operatives to shadow Laura that evening, introducing mysterious off-screen characters at this point feels like narrative contortion when such an obvious suspect stands right before us. The photographic evidence itself reveals careful planning and professional execution that exceeds what a hastily arranged surveillance operation could achieve. The images are well composed, properly focused, and captured from angles that maximize their incriminating impact. This suggests the photographer knew exactly what they were looking for and positioned themselves deliberately to document the most damaging possible shots. Nathan would have understood the legal and political implications of such photographs, allowing him to frame each image for maximum blackmail value. A random operative might have simply snapped whatever pictures they could manage, but these photos demonstrate the work of someone who comprehends the full significance of what they're capturing, looking toward the future and the inevitable unraveling of these secrets. General Hospital appears to be constructing an explosive storyline that will shake Port Charles to its foundation when Nathan's true allegiances are finally exposed. The revelation that a trusted PCPD detective has been working for a dangerous international criminal all along will send shockwaves through every corner of the community. Characters who considered Nathan a friend, colleague, and ally will be forced to confront the devastating reality that they've been manipulated and betrayed by someone they never thought to question. The psychological impact of such a betrayal could fracture relationships and shatter trust in ways that take years to repair, if healing proves possible at all. The ramifications extend far beyond personal relationships into the realm of legal jeopardy and criminal exposure. If Nathan has been feeding information to Sidwell and actively working to protect criminal operations, every case he's touched becomes suspect. Defense attorneys will have grounds to challenge convictions, evidence chains will be questioned, and the entire integrity of PCPD operations could face scrutiny. Meanwhile, Sonny, Laura, and everyone else caught in Sidwell's blackmail web will need to navigate the nightmare scenario of having their darkest secrets controlled by someone who knows exactly how to weaponize that information against them. Next, we will learn about the shocking developments surrounding Nina Reeves' unexpected appearance at her daughter Willow Tate's wedding to the controversial Congressman Drew Cain. What started as a potential disaster turned into something far more intriguing than anyone could have anticipated. Nina Reeves arrived at the ceremony with her heart pounding and her mind racing with conflicting emotions. She wasn't there to create a scene or drag Willow away from the altar in dramatic fashion, though many guests secretly expected exactly that kind of theatrical intervention. Nina came bearing something far more valuable than objections or accusations. She came with an olive branch extended and one final lifeline for her daughter to grab onto before making what could be the biggest mistake of her life. The tension in the air was palpable as Nina approached, her eyes searching Willow's face for any sign of doubt or hesitation about this union with Drew Cain. What transpired next stunned everyone who witnessed it, especially Nina herself. Willow, despite harboring deep resentment toward her mother for the secret affair with Drew that had torn their relationship to shreds, decided to take the risk and open up completely. In a moment of raw vulnerability that caught Nina completely off guard, Willow pulled her aside and revealed the truth that had been burning inside her chest. This wasn't a fairy tale romance or a love-conquering all scenario that the wedding guests might have imagined. This was strategy, pure and calculated. Willow confessed her entire agenda with startling clarity. She was marrying Drew Cain not out of love or passion, but as a tactical maneuver to reclaim custody of her children from Michael Corinthos, the man who had systematically worked to take them away from her. The revelation hit Nina like a thunderbolt, but instead of horror or disapproval, something unexpected happened. Understanding washed over her features as the pieces of this complex puzzle suddenly clicked into place. Nina's entire demeanor shifted in that moment, transforming from worried, desperate mother to co-conspirator and ally. The relief that flooded through both women was almost visible, a weight lifting from their shoulders as they stood together once again, united by this shared secret and common purpose. Perhaps Willow understood her mother's psychology better than Nina even understood herself. Willow had recognized, with razor-sharp clarity, that all her mother truly needed was insight into the reasoning behind her decisions. Nina's relentless attempts to prevent this wedding, her desperate pleas and interventions, all stemmed from a place of fear and confusion about why Willow would bind herself to Drew Cain of all people. The moment Nina grasped the strategic brilliance behind Willow's choice, everything changed. Suddenly, Nina wasn't an outsider looking in with growing panic and helplessness. She was part of the inner circle, privy to the master plan, able to rest easier knowing her daughter and grandchildren had a fighting chance. This newfound understanding allowed Nina to trust Willow's judgment in ways she hadn't been able to before. The knowledge that Willow wasn't stumbling blindly into disaster, driven by some misguided emotion or clouded judgment, but rather executing a carefully calculated strategy, gave Nina tremendous peace of mind. Her daughter wasn't living in a fantasy world or making reckless choices based on passion alone. Willow had her eyes wide open, fully aware of what she was doing and why. In fact, the more Nina considered it, the more she realized this was exactly the type of bold, ruthless move she herself might have made in similar circumstances. The apple hadn't fallen far from the tree after all. When examining Willow's strategy through a cold, analytical lens, the logic becomes increasingly compelling and difficult to refute. The facts speak for themselves in stark, undeniable terms. Michael Corinthos, the man fighting for sole custody of their children, is currently involved romantically with a woman who worked as a prostitute. Meanwhile, Willow has just married Drew Cain, a sitting United States congressman with all the prestige, influence, and respectability that title commands. The optics alone create a striking contrast that any family court judge would have to consider carefully. Drew Cain may have his share of scandals, questionable decisions, and damaged relationships trailing behind him like shadows, but none of that changes the fundamental reality of his position. The title of congressman carries enormous weight in society and in courtrooms. It signals stability, success, leadership, and a certain moral authority, whether or not that perception aligns perfectly with reality. That title precedes Drew wherever he goes and commands a level of automatic respect that transcends his personal failings or the damage he's inflicted on those in his inner circle. The power differential between a congressman's wife and the girlfriend of a mob-adjacent businessman dating a former sex worker is substantial and impossible to ignore. Willow laid out her reasoning with brutal honesty when confiding in Nina. She doesn't need to be head over heels in love with Drew Cain to make this arrangement work for her purposes. Her love is reserved for her children, the precious little ones Michael has systematically worked to keep from her. If she can successfully leverage Drew's congressional position, his substantial wealth, his political connections, and his public image to present herself as the more stable, suitable parent, then why wouldn't she use every tool at her disposal? She already demonstrated her willingness to play hardball when she managed to utilize these same resources to escape attempted murder charges that could have landed her in prison for years. Getting off the hook for such serious criminal allegations required skillful maneuvering and powerful allies. If those resources worked once to save her freedom, surely they can work again to reunite her with her children. However, as with any elaborate scheme, there are potential complications lurking beneath the surface that could derail everything Willow has carefully constructed. What happens when life with Drew Cain proves messier, more demanding, and significantly more complicated than Willow anticipates. Marriage to an ambitious, cutthroat politician isn't exactly a walk in the park. Drew has his own agenda, his own political ambitions, his own need to maintain a certain public image. He didn't marry Willow purely as a favor or out of the goodness of his heart. He has his own motivations, his own needs that will demand attention and compliance. The real question becomes whether Willow has truly thought through all the implications of tying herself legally and publicly to someone as calculating and strategic as Drew. Can she maintain the facade of a happy political marriage while secretly counting down the days until she can execute her exit strategy? What happens if Drew starts making demands she isn't prepared to meet? What if his political career requires sacrifices from her that she isn't willing to make? The road ahead is full of potential landmines that could explode at any moment. Nina might be willing to back off now and give Willow the space to execute her plan without constant maternal interference, but that doesn't mean she's walking away completely. Nina will be watching from a distance, ready to swoop in the moment things start going sideways. She'll position herself as the safety net, the backup plan, the person Willow can turn to when this house of cards starts showing signs of collapse. After all, that's what mothers do, they catch their children when they fall. But here's where things could get truly dangerous for both Nina and Willow. Drew Kane didn't become a successful politician by being naive or easily fooled. He's built his career on reading people, identifying threats, and neutralizing them before they can do real damage. The sudden, dramatic shift in Nina's attitude toward this marriage is going to raise massive red flags for someone with Drew's instincts and paranoia. One day Nina is desperately trying to stop the wedding, throwing every obstacle she can in their path, and the next day she's perfectly content and supportive. That transformation is going to seem suspicious to anyone paying attention, especially someone as calculating as Congressman Kane. If Nina and Willow's relationship pivots on a dime, suddenly transforming from hostile to harmonious overnight, Drew's going to smell a rat immediately. He'll start asking questions, probing for weaknesses in their story, looking for signs of the conspiracy he suspects is brewing right under his nose. And if Nina starts playing nice to Drew, being cordial at family gatherings and supportive of the marriage while secretly waiting for Willow to complete her scheme and make her escape, Drew may very well grow wise to their antics before they can pull off this elaborate deception. The moment he realizes he's been played, that this marriage was never about partnership or love, but purely a strategic move to gain leverage in a custody battle, all hell is going to break loose. The stakes have never been higher for both mother and daughter. They're walking a tightrope without a net, trying to outmaneuver one of the most dangerous players in Port Charles. One wrong move, one slip of the tongue, one moment of carelessness could expose their entire plan and leave them both vulnerable to Drew's wrath. The question now isn't whether they can pull this off, it's whether they can maintain the deception long enough to achieve their goals before Drew unravels the truth.